And good morning again, church.
Good morning.
We did get the granddaughter graduated. Went all the way to LA, and we survived it, Grandma survived it, the grandkids survived it. You know, they're putting steaks on the grill. It says, well, you're celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary, and they got this graduation cake, whipped cream, and all that other stuff that I'm not supposed to eat. And of course, we said that was 50th anniversary too. So we claimed that all our 50th anniversary stuff had to be there for enjoying our grandkid. That was neat though. She ended up winning 5 different awards. Some were National Honor Society and bilingual Spanish-English, and she getting quite fluent, can be almost a Spanish-English translator. But she's going to go to the California State, Cal State at University, and that is located in Long Beach, California. She wants to get into nurse practitioner or medical doctor. So it's kind of neat. So we got medical, somebody that can patch up Grandma and Grandpa. Anyway.
She needs to go into geriatrics.
Get into geriatrics, take care of Grandpa. Ecclesiastes chapter 4. We've been preaching through the book of Ecclesiastes this year. And there's a lot of neat stuff in it. Originally I was going to go through the book of Judges, and that was a pretty bloody book. So I decided to steer away from it and get into a non-bloody book, and more of a practical book. And I'm learning things through Ecclesiastes, and hope I'm sharing these things with you too. One of the big themes in part 2 of Ecclesiastes chapter 4 verse 9 says, 2 are better than 1 because they have good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. And if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Now I'm thinking here, when I talked about if you got 2 people working, you got a better return on your labor. Unless you've got teenagers. Now I've seen teenagers go out to work, and when you got 1 kid on the job, you got 1 worker. You got 2 teenagers on the job, you got half worker. And if you got 3 teenagers on the job, you got no worker. Because they're, you know, and I remember hiring some teenagers to get a job done, weeding the woods for an environmental project over there at the business in Auburndale, to try to take 1/10 of an acre and turn it back to environmental wetland. And we hired a bunch of teenagers, and we had guys and gals. We showed no discrimination. We got more work out of the guys than the gals because the gal would like to flirt with the guys. She spent more time flirting with the guys than she did pulling weeds. But such was life. We still paid them fairly because they're wading up to their ankles in mud and dirt and swamp slop. But still, you know that whenever you got 2 working, if one's up on the roof, you got somebody fetching your tools, rather than you running up and down the ladder, fetching your tools that you forgot. If you're working in the attic, it's good to have the wife say, honey, hand me up a wrench, hand me up a screwdriver at the top of the stairs, instead of running up and down, crawling through the attic and up and down, doing whatever you're doing up in the attic to fix some kind of a condensation leak in the air conditioner system. But 2 are better than 1. Verse 13, better a poor but wise youth than an old but foolish king who no longer knows how to heed a warning. The youth may have come from prison to the kingship. Sounds like Joseph, doesn't it? Or he may have been born in poverty within his kingdom. I saw that all who lived and walked under the sun followed the youth, the king's successor. There was no end to all the people who were before them, but those who came later were not pleased with the successor. This too is meaningless, the chasing of the wind. I like to base our main theme on the cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. 2 are better than 1. And I kind of like that as a basic theme, that we deal with marriage. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their hard work. And I notice the Bible talks about a cord, a 3-stranded cord. And in marriage, there's kind of a braided cord where we make a vow or a dedication or commitment to each other. And if we have a husband and a wife making a commitment before God, He is the 3rd cord. And whenever God's part of the equation, you put that together and you have a cord that's not easily broken. But whenever God's not in the equation, you have a cord that is too easily broken. And we had dinner. We were celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary in Jamaica. And we had a couple we were celebrating with. We're celebrating their 25th year. And his daughter just got back for an internship with the United Nations, serving 6-month internship. This young lady at 22 years old, master's degree, Hindi language, they were from India, French, German, Swiss, English, patois. She knew it all. She was a bright young lady. And I said, what's the biggest issue you feel among society in India? And he said, the big thing is not getting married. Commitment. Back to that big thing, that big word commitment. Whereas in the old days, and their marriages in India were all arranged marriages. And Santina, that took me back to that arranged marriage.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of you when we were sharing with me their arranged marriage. They were married for 25 years, and he owned or managed 2 stores. They're Smile Jamaica and Montego Bay. And what's the new store, Mom?
Blue Seas, and he owns that one.
Which one's called?
Blue Seas.
Blue Seas. And it's, you know, tourist place, T-shirts and cigars from Cuba that you can buy legally or illegally and smuggle into the country, and all the Jamaica coffee and wood carvings and all the other things. But here we saw, even though they were an arranged marriage, 25 years of commitment to each other, we saw a lot of love. They only had 1 kid, but a bright kid, smart kid to be proud of. And when you think 2 are better than 1, when you got a kid that's a bright kid, yeah, it's cool. You're the legacy of Dad. Yeah, right. 2 are better than 1. Now he talks about 3 examples of where 2 are better than 1. The first example is that of a traveler who falls into a pit or a ditch. And if one falls down, his friend can help him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. For a traveler on his own, a fall might prove fatal, especially at night. If the leg's broken, if a rib's cracked, if a skull is split open, the single traveler may never receive needed medical attention. The traveler may never receive, or travel with a companion, has someone to pull him up out of the ditch or pit, someone to splint his broken bones, someone to bring him to safety. A Christian does not need to travel through life alone. They have each other, and when a believer falls into a pit of sin, their brother or sister can help pull them out. When a believer is having problems and trials, they can lean on their brothers and sisters. 2 are better than 1. Anytime I'm in the attic doing a job, I make sure my wife is downstairs and not shopping. Because you can get in an attic and it's 100 degrees, even though we got a fan in there, it's supposed to kick on at 100 degrees. You can get overwhelmed with heat exhaustion and pass out in the attic, and your wife will come home and find you dead. So there's one thing I've learned: when you're working up in the attic, have your safety downstairs within hailing distance. Not only say, fetch me a glass of ice water, I'm tormented in these flames. I also say, I need a screwdriver, I need a wrench, I need this, hand it up at the top of the steps going up the ladder. When I'm on the roof, I remember getting a call. George Kimball was locked on top of his roof. Somehow, whenever he's cutting down a branch, the branch brushed up, knocked his ladder to the ground. And there he's up on top of his ladder, on a roof, without a ladder, calling for help, 911. And somebody calls me, and I'm 10, 12 miles away. You know, call 911. What do you think I'm 911 for? Don't call me. You know, call 911. There's a local cop come by and put the ladder back up. But you wonder, you know, if you're on the roof, always have your safety. Always have your wife around. Always have somebody around to be safety. There's one guy decided to go off hiking and mountain climbing by himself. I say stupid, stupid, stupid. And he fell down and he got his hand caught between a rock and the cliff face. And he had to take his pocket knife and sever his arm and tourniquet it and limp back into safety 2.5 days later. Don't be stupid. That's why the Bible says there's a traveler who falls into a pit. He falls into a ditch. Always have safety. Work safe, be safe. 2 are better than 1. Ecclesiastes 9 talks about 2 people are better than 1 because together they have a good reward for their hard work. If one falls, the other can help his friend up. How tragic it is for the one who is all alone when he falls. There's no one to help him get up. Again, if two people lie down together, they can keep warm. But how can one person keep warm? Though one person may be overpowered by another, two people can resist one opponent. A triple braided rope is not easily broken. Two are better than one. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their work. If you're going fishing, don't be stupid. Don't go fishing by yourself. My brother's in the sheriff's department, and he's gone down to Lake Kissimmee. He spent 2 days flying airplane, running prisoners back and forth that broke parole. And he spent 2 days, or 2 weeks, on Lake Kissimmee running a patrol boat. He says, Dick, hard job, but somebody's got to do it. Imagine running a patrol boat on Lake Kissimmee. Well, that's what he did. But it is sometimes a fisherman came up missing. And you know what they ask when a fisherman shows up missing? What did he eat for breakfast that morning? If he ate bread, bread is yeast. And if they had bread and yeast, that means the body will float. And if they had bacon and eggs, that means the body will sink to the bottom of the lake, and you send out divers. Now that's information you don't know every day. You don't learn every day unless you got a brother who works for the sheriff's department and has found fishermen missing. One of his biggest tragedies, though, he came to Thanksgiving dinner table depressed and says, Dan, what's wrong? He said, we had an armored car go into the lake, and even though they're bomb-proof and bulletproof and everything else proof, they're not waterproof. And they had jackhammers trying to get the people out. You've got to be in the cab and in the side, and you've got to hit 2 buzzers at the same time to open up an armored car. You're good information to know if you ever want to rob an armored car. You come to church, find these good things, But if you're in there and you're unconscious and you don't hit a button inside and a button inside the cab, you can't open the door. Wow. And they couldn't get the guy out, and he drowned. And that's why I came to the Thanksgiving table pretty depressed, because when you're in law enforcement, your deal is to save lives, even if people do stupid and they're drunk and they go take a shampoo in Lake Parker and an alligator bites them in the back of the head. And you as a cop got to rescue this drunk out of the hands of an alligator here at Lake Parker. Yes, it happens here. This is not Maryland. You're not in Kansas, Dorothy. You don't take a bath in Lake Parker after dark because that's when the gators feed. If you're going to take a bath in Lake Parker, do it during the daytime when the alligators aren't feeding. Good information for tourists. I didn't tell you about tourists, did we? You know what we do with our tourists? We feed them to our alligators. Yes, Auntie.
Or drive down the road and hit an alligator.
Yeah, then you really wake up pretty good.
I did that one night.
Wow, there have been a few hit lately.
A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. It says 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one that will lift up his fellow, and woe to him that alone when he falls, for he has not another to help him. 2 are better than 1 because they got a good reward. And if one prevail against him, 2 shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. It's kind of an interesting thing when 2 lie together. You know one thing us husbands enjoy in cold, cold Colorado weather? Snuggling up to our honey. You know why? Romance, yeah, but warmth.
That's right.
And when you get down there and you're in Jamaica, you're just hot and sticky. Get on your side of the bed, you stay on your side of the bed. Don't touch me, we're hot and sticky. Or you're cold and honey, put on socks, your feet are cold, and they put their cold feet on you. They say, oh honey, warm me up, oh honey, warm me up. Of course, Ray's never done that to you. You've done that to Ray with cold feet, right?
No, I have the hot body.
Okay, so he warms up to you as his hot water bottle. Even this dumb TV program that got Naked and Alone, which I don't recommend. They kind of blur up the whatever, but you got 2 couples, 2 people not married, they go out there, they got to survive, and then they got to lay together, not romantically, but to keep their body heat together. Otherwise they'll freeze to death because they're naked and not alone, and so they snuggle. But again, he says, if 2 lie together, then they have heat. How can one be warm alone? I don't know if they did that in World War II in the cold trenches where they were slept back to back in these pup tents. Because I know the soldiers would always have, one would carry one half the tent, the other would carry the other half the tent. They put the two together and they sleep back to back. For what reason? Stay warm. The traveler facing the cold Palestinian night. If two lie down together, they'll keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? We know that Bethlehem had an inn. Most towns and cities did. But in a day when most people traveled on foot, it was not always possible to get to the next town and the safety and warmth of an inn. In such a situation, it was very common for a traveler to sleep under the stars or in a cave. And the Palestinian nights, even during the summer, can be very cool. Most travelers found it necessary to sleep together in order to stay warm and comfortable. One of the joys of Christian fellowship is this: warmth and love we find in each other. Fellowship's like a fire. We warm up to its glowing. Two are better than one. Remember that old Ralph Carmichael song? It says it only takes a spark to get a fire going. And we warm up to its glowing. I like that song. Yeah, two are better than one. Seems like when you're trying to pick up a load or pull a rope or something like that, two hands can get the whole thing going. It's going back to synergy. It said that a plow horse by himself can pull about 12,000 pounds. Another plow horse can pull about 10,000 pounds. You figure together they can pull 22,000, or together they can pull 28,000. It's called synergy. Two together can get more work done than one by themselves. And we who are the lone ranger, that like to be the lone guardian, the lone preacher, the lone this, find out we can get a whole lot more done when we have other people helping us, rather than try to do it all by ourselves. You know, that's one thing maybe I've learned as I got a little bit older, maybe we've gotten a little bit smarter. We've learned to delegate a little bit more, because you find out you can't do it all. But if you delegate and train, you can sit back and smile. It goes a whole lot easier. The third illustration is taken from the burglar, or wayside bandit. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. The single traveler may be overcome by a bandit. Safety is found in numbers. Christian believers are strengthened and sustain each other. They look to each other for support and encouragement. They uphold and defend each other. Again, we say two are better than one. You know, when we're down in Jamaica, we tell the young people that are with us, do not go off wandering by yourself. We always think of Natalie Holloway, the young gal in Aruba, who the high school group went off and she's going to go party. And a few of our guys decided to go take off at night. You say stay in and be careful. And a couple of the guys decided to take off without their Jamaican guests, without their group of fellow Americans. And they took off into Montego Bay at night, at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then the ladies' night came up and they tried to seduce these two young guys. And they got scared. And then their pimp came along and decided to threaten them and says, what's wrong with my Jamaica ladies, guys? You either pay them what's coming to them, or I'm going to cut your throat. I cut you, man, I cut you. Wow. And they boogied back to the motel. Of course, we didn't hear about this till a year later. You know, these things go on that you don't hear about till a year later. About my son sneaking in the trunk of a car with his friend to snuggle into a drive-in movie in Pennsylvania. And there, you know, we say our kids don't go to the theater. And he's snuggling and smuggling himself in the trunk. How many of you guys rode to the old drive-in theaters in the trunk of a car? Come on, this is confession time. Maybe you try that. You know, it was $1 a carload though. And when you get $1 a carload, you didn't have to smuggle somebody in. But back in the old days, they had big trunks. You could put an awful lot of people in those old trunks.
I would never done it. No way.
Remember the Three Musketeers?
Yeah.
One for all for one. Of course, in this movie there was 4 musketeers. And we found 4. When you're sword fighting, you find when you're back to back, you can have your back to the wall. But if you're back to back, you can fight with great skill. But if you get somebody coming in from behind you, it's kind of hard to fight with great skill. One for all for one. 2 are better than one because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him, but pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. I want to close out this morning with a tribute to Dad, since it is Father's Day. And when I prepared this series of messages on Ecclesiastes down in Jamaica a few weeks ago, there's one thing I forgot. I forgot that today was Father's Day and I was going to be preaching. So it says, how can you take that Ecclesiastes chapter 4 sermon and turn it all to fathers? Kind of hard, isn't it? But I'm going to give you an Irma Bombeck tribute when God created fathers. When the good Lord was creating fathers, he started with a tall frame. A female angel nearby said, "What kind of father is that? If you're going to make children so close to the ground, why have you put fathers up so high? He won't be able to shoot marbles without kneeling, tuck a child in bed without bending, or even kiss a child without a lot of stooping." And God smiled and said, "Yes, but if I make him child-size, who would children have to look up to?" And when God made a father's hands, they were large and sinewy. The angel shook her head sadly and said, "Do you know what you're doing? Large hands are clumsy. They can't manage diaper pins, small buttons, rubber bands, or ponytails, or even remove splinters caused by baseball bats." And God smiled and said, "I know, but they're large enough to hold everything a small boy empties from his pockets at the end of the day, yet small enough to cup a child's face." And then God molded long, slim legs and broad shoulders. The angel nearby had a heart attack. "Boy, this is the end of the week, all right," she clucked. "Do you realize you just made a father without a lap? How is he going to pull a child close to him with a kid falling between his legs?" The God smiled again. The mother needs a lap. The father needs strong shoulders to pull a sled, balance a boy on a bicycle, or hold a sleepy head on the way home from the circus. God was in the middle of creating two of the largest feet anyone had ever seen when the angel could contain herself no longer. That's not fair. Do you honestly think those large boats are going to dig out of bed early in the morning when the baby cries, or walk through a small birthday party without crushing at least 3 of the guests? And God smiled and said, "They'll work. You'll see. They'll support a small child who wants to ride a horse to Banbury Cross, or scare off mice at the summer cabin, or display shoes that will be a challenge to fill." God worked throughout the night, giving the father few words but a firm, authoritative voice, and eyes that saw everything but remained calm and tolerant. Finally, almost as an afterthought, he added tears. Then he turned to the angel and said, "Now, are you satisfied that he can love as much as a mother?" And the angel shutteth up. God bless these thoughts. Happy Father's Day, dads. We're going to have a time of invitation. I don't know what your relationship is with Jesus Christ, but this is your invitation if you need special thought of our Lord. We're also going to have time here in a bit to have special prayer for Sylvia going in for surgery Tuesday. And we're going to have that time of spiritual thought.